discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, World's Best Workforce Summary and Achievement Integration Progress Report. Ryan DeBay.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. This is a joint report put on by myself in the World's Best Workforce Summary and the Achievement Integration Progress Report, which will be put on by Sarah Schofield, and she will be online with us today as well. Just so you know, this World's Best Workforce Committee really started in 2013, and I'm going to read the reasons why, because I think they're important to the work we do. Obviously, all children are ready for school. It's the first goal. All third graders can read at grade level. All racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed, and all students are ready for career in college. And the last, all students graduate from high school, something all districts are trying to achieve. And here at 318, we've made a big strides towards them. I'm excited to share out some of that progress this year. School boards are required to hold an annual public meeting. That's what we have going on today, where we're going to review goals, outcomes, and perhaps some strategies for previous years. The public meeting is held with A&I at the same time, and the date of the meeting is today. And after today, this information will be posted on our website, and any social media outlets we have for the community to see as well. So our district advisory committee, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind. Yeah. Sure. So our district advisory committee members, I have our
That's Kara's, Julie.
All right, sorry about that.
So here are our district advisory committee members. We've had this year a couple meetings where we've had all the participants involved. We have 2 slides there. You can see the members that are listed. We are looking for more members. We're looking for people to be involved. I think this is an important team for the district, and so if there's people that are interested in being part of this after listening to the presentation, please get a hold of me. But we are looking for more people to be involved in this. Our requirements. It requires the district and charter schools to have a process in place to ensure students from low-income families, students of color, and American Indian students are not taught at a disproportionate rates by inexperienced, out of field, and ineffective teachers. You can see our staff. We have a very highly qualified staff at 318, and it's very evident. Our demographics for our district, we have 16.8% of our students are students of color. And you can see the breakdown there as well. We have a number of strategies in place to support our teachers and their growth here at the district. You can see them there. PLCs, we've done a lot of efforts of revamping our PLCs this year, and we're very excited about that. We have principal PLCs weekly on Mondays. We have an advisor program, and we also have a building level leadership teams that are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to support our teachers and our staff as well. Our first goal, as you heard, all students are ready for school. Our goal is to increase the number of children who meet or exceed proficiency in 4 out of the 9 areas of early numeracy and early literacy as it relates to the individual growth and development indicator. And students will show gains in their fall to spring scores and letter sound fluency as measured by FAST. This is our Invest Early and Head Start goal. As you know, we want to prepare students for kindergarten. If you go to the next slide, here are the areas that these students were tested. And the next slide really shows you our growth in those areas, and it's exciting to see. You can see from fall to spring, the areas of growth in the far right column there, showing our Invest Early Head Start students are growing at a really nice rate. Our next goal, the percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards in the statewide reading assessment in third grade will increase by 3%, from 47.2 in 2022 to 50.7 in 2023. And you can see our goal was met. The percentage of students meeting and exceeding went up 7.4%. Again, this is not the way the trend lines are looking across the state. This is exciting to see the growth in this area for our third grade students. 7.4% growth in the area of reading this year. This wasn't the case last year. So I'm excited to report on this information. The next one, you can see the district's third grade free and reduced proficiency as measured by the reading MCAs. This one was met as well. We've increased our free and reduced proficiency by 13%, going from 35% in 2022 to 48% in 2023. Again, very exciting to see the growth in that area for our free and reduced population. Next slide. The district's third grade American Indian proficiency as measured by the reading MCA will increase 3%. You can see in that area, we grew 18%, from 32% in 2022 to 50% in 2023. Again, very exciting to see that level of growth in our American Indian children as it relates to literacy. Next slide is math. So the percentage of students meeting and exceeding standards in the statewide math assessment in third grade, our goal was to increase it by 3%. And this past year, the percentage of students meeting and exceeding standards in the statewide assessment, although it didn't meet our goal, we went up by 2.6%, from 60.2 in 2022 to 62.8 in 2023. Again, we're seeing our trend lines going up in every area. The next slide. So again, the free and reduced proficiency, looking at that as it relates to math, our goal again was 3%. And you can see this one we met, but we increased our goal by 7.1%, from 45% in 2022 to 52.6% in 2023. Next slide. This one here, the district's third grade American Indian proficiency as measured by the math MCA will increase by 3%, from 36% in 2022 to 39% in 2023. You can see here, I included the chart based right off MDA's website, but our ANI proficiency as measured by the MCA increased by 27.3%, from 36% in 2022 to 63.3% in 2023. Again, this data was taken right off our Minnesota report card. You can see the graph, you can see the green graph there and our trend line for our American Indian students assessed, and you can see the heavy curve going up into the right. Very exciting. The next one's our graduation rate, or career and college ready goals. Our goal is to have 100% with students that have a readiness plan, and we of course met that in 2023 with 100% of our district high school students had a career and college readiness plan in place. And then the last one is the graduation rate. The percentage of students who graduate will increase, and of course this year our graduation rate increased by 4.2%, from 91.8 in 22 to 96% in 2023. So again, very exciting to see. That will complete my end of the report. Sarah?
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. I am doing the same thing in Deer River, so thank you for allowing me to come in virtually tonight. I will present on the 22-23 Achievement and Integration Plan for ISD 318. The purpose is to pursue racial and economic integration, increase student achievement, create equitable opportunities, and reduce academic disparities. The 22-23 school year was year one of a 3-year rotation. So we completed the first 3-year rotation. So 22-23 is year one of rotation 2. So all of the goals are written as 3-year goals. We have 2 achievement goals, 1 integration goal, and 1 teacher equity goal. Goal number 1 for achievement and integration reads the percentage of 16-month enrolled American Indian students from ISD 318 in post-secondary education will increase from 25% in the spring of 2021, so that would be the class of 2019, to 50% in the spring of 2025, which would be the class of 2023. This goal was met. So per MDE report card, 57% of American Indian students enrolled in post-secondary education within 16 months of graduation. And what are we doing at the high school? We have implemented the AVID elective, and this year we are putting a very heavy focus on the AVID school-wide. So I just added some pieces in there. What are we doing? Kind of looking ahead. We will focus this on more reading goals for elementary, middle, and secondary. So strategy 1, we will be helping with the professional development support, grades K-3 per the READS grant. Anishinaabe Education is looking for an after-school tutor at the middle school, and then we will continue our efforts at AVID school-wide with a reading focus and through the Wicker strategies. And then strategy 2 is to support attendance. Achievement and integration, goal 2 is an integration goal. In collaboration with ISD 318 Anishinaabe Education, Grand Rapids School District will enrich cultural awareness for all through an increase of opportunities for experiential activities consistently from 2 in 2021 to 4 in 2025. That goal, it says it was met, but it should say it was on track. Again, these are 3-year goals. So ISD 318 offered 3 opportunities for experiential activities during the 22-23 school year. ANI is supporting, last year we supported a multi-district cohort with 317. Students participate in cultural activities, and then we increase opportunities for cultural learning in the classroom. Looking ahead, we will be creating an online library of cultural resources for teachers to use. This will be available on the webpage. Anishinaabe Education will provide the resources, videos, lesson plans, and then any signups for hands-on activities. Goal number 3 is an achievement goal. The percentage of students entering kindergarten will show growth towards kindergarten preparedness as measured by FastBridge assessment. For 44% proficient in the spring of 21 to 53% in the spring of 25. That goal was already met with 78% of kindergarten students showing to be proficient in reading in spring of 2023. So that number is astounding. What are we doing? We are doing that kindergarten roundup in the spring, and then we do the 1-week kinder camp over the summer. And we will keep that goal as is for now. Achievement and integration goal number 4 is focused on teacher equity. ISD 318 will increase the number of students enrolled into the Intro to Teaching course from 10 in 2021 to 15 in 2025. This goal is on track as 12 students were enrolled in 2023. So what are we doing? We have Zello implementation, intentional scheduling for students, and then we are looking at providing crossover teaching opportunities with Anishinaabe Education. So looking ahead, we would like to start a partnership with Anishinaabe Education and students who are interested in career pathways per Zello data. And these students will be paired with student advocates, observing lessons, writing and preparing lessons, teaching small groups, and then teaching large groups. This is something that is definitely just in the beginning stages of talks, but it is a goal of ours moving forward to get more students interested in that homegrown teacher. So that is achievement and integration. If anyone has any questions.
Any discussion or questions?
I want to say thank you. This is really inspiring report. on the success of our students. Thank you to you both and to all the people working with us. This is really inspiring. Can you give us any sense about how this compares across the board, statewide?
Just looking at our third grade trends across the state, they're trending downward. Whereas we've seen our third grade number or proficiency rate go up 7%. Wow. Which is incredible. And our looking at our percentages, you could date this back to pre-COVID. Our reading data is showing better success now than it was pre-COVID. And again, a lot of that goes into the work we're doing around early literacy, with assessments and making informed decisions with our MTSS process, and things of that nature. So it's exciting to see, and we look forward to continued growth in this area.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Good report. Thank you, Ryan and Sarah. Julie, do you have anybody signed up for public input?
We don't.
You do not. At this point, what I'm looking for is a motion to approve the 2022-2023 World's Best Workforce Summary.
So
Moved by Pat,
Second, David.
second by David. Discussion. All in favor of approving that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. There's nothing else on the agenda for the World's Best Workforce. We're gonna
Mr.
adjourn.
Chair, can I just interrupt? I'm
Sure.
sorry. I'm wondering, Sarah, if we need to ensure that the motion includes the achievement integration report as well.
It's a combined World's Best Workforce and A&I, so it should be good.
Okay.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Tobin. My question is the truth and taxation meeting separate as far as
It's separate,
commenting or,
separate.
pardon?
It's separate.
Okay, so where do I sign up for that?
There will be a sign-up sheet next to the door.
Thank you.
At this point, we're going to adjourn the World's Best Workforce, and we will come back together at 6 o'clock for the truth and taxation meeting. We're going to call the Truth and Taxation meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Looking for a motion.
So
Moved by Pat,
Second, David.
second by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Right.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is the Truth and Taxation hearing. Kara, you have the floor.
Thank you. Interesting, I do full screen and doesn't want to see what works, so. We'll do it this way. Okay. Thank you. Board Chair and School Board, please jump in if you guys have any questions during the presentation. There'll be time for questions at the end from the public. We do this every year. This is required by law.
louder, please.
This presentation is required by law. We are required to send out tax statements, which everyone received November 16th. And then we're required to have a hearing, and the requirements of the hearing are to talk about the taxes payable for the 2024 levy for budget year 2025, and to offer public input.
Is it possible to get it even a little louder yet?
It sounds like it's right on the edge of being back.
You
can give it a try.
We'll have a hell of a system. What you got?
The public meeting has to occur between November 24th and December 30th after 6 o'clock. We are in compliance with that. And those are the items we need to present on. This school district levy is different from the cities and the counties. Where the cities and counties have a calendar year budget, we have a fiscal year budget. So the levy that we are talking about is actually going to be for the year starting July 1st through June 30th, 2025. So we're setting this almost a year and a half in advance. There's a lot that happens for this cycle, and it's over several years just to get to the point where we are, where we don't really get to have a say in what the levy is. Back in late 2022, early 2023, the assessor came and he assessed, or she assessed, your property values. In July to September, we looked at the levy. I was able to input a few things into the Department of Education's website. The majority of the levy calculations are done by MDE and based on enrollment and property tax values and programs that we offer. We're doing the Truth and Taxation meeting right now. And then these taxes that will be approved tonight will be assessed on property tax owners for 2024, collected in May and October. And then they will be for the next year's budget. So it's a long process. So understanding how the property taxes work, everyone has a piece of the pie if you own a piece of property. It just depends on how big your piece of pie is. Sometimes you want a big one, if it's key lime maybe. Sometimes if you're a taxpayer, you want a very small piece of that pie. So let's use this as an example. Let's say Pat has the orange house and David has the blue house. And each of their homes are worth $100,000. And we're levying $500. That's our entire levy, $500. Each of their values are the same. They own half of the levy. They each pay $250 in property taxes. The assessor comes the next year and he says Pat's home is worth $110,000 and David's home is worth $125,000. We're going to set the levy at the same amount, But because David's value went up more than Pat's, David has to pay more than Pat, even though the levy stayed flat. And that's what's happening in our county. The values are changing significantly. When the values change, the smallest amount change in the levy may impact people severely. We all know what this is. We've all lived this the last quite a while. Our referendum did not pass. 94 districts in the state of Minnesota do not have an operating referendum. The majority do. They have them to assist with operations for their students. Ryan and Sarah's presentation on the world's best workforce was so exciting. I don't really get excited about education. I get excited about numbers, but seeing those test results were amazing, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. Everyone got this proposed tax statement. It was dated November 16th. And on it, it listed your tax value, any taxable market credit that you had, and then we're only responsible for the part that is for ISD 318. That's our part. The rest is the county, state, the city, special taxing districts. On the back of the tax statement gives the amount of the levy increase. So back on November 16th, the district's increase was 6.8%. The proposed levy increase tonight is 6.8%. It has not changed since this statement was sent out. So I don't know where higher values have come from, but this is the amount that was presented to taxpayers back in November. Possible reasons why your levy, your taxes have changed. The change in the value of your property. I know some of us are winners, some of us are losers here in the value. If you're trying to sell your home and the value is high, you're definitely a winner. If you're not going to sell your home and your value's up, you get stuck paying more in taxes staying in your home. The change in enrollment. Our enrollment has been basically flat over the last few years. Small changes on a 4,000 pupil budget. Those changes aren't major. And so the property valuation is the biggest factor in the amount of taxes that people are being assessed. Schools are funded with the majority of the funding coming from the Department of Education. And the Department of Education gets its money from income taxes, property taxes. The amount we get when we hear this year, this fiscal year 24, we got a 4% increase in our revenues. That 4% increase is only on a small portion of our revenue. The 4% increase is $1.1 million. Our budget's $60 million. That's less than 2% increase in our main source of revenue. If we look at this graph, 4,200 pupil units, you can see next year our basic education formula increases 2%. That's already been set. That increase is almost $600,000. That's a 1% increase on a $60 million budget. Now compare that to the inflation amounts. Inflation in 22 was 7%. 7% applied to a lot of our budget, not just a small part. So it's very difficult for the district when it's trying to budget to continue to match revenues and expenses. We've all done it. We're all adults. We all have, homes and manage things. But when we have processes that are working against us, it's a little difficult. In addition to that, back in 2003, they decoupled in the state basic formula from inflation. If they hadn't done that, in fiscal year 24, we would have had $5.3 million more in state funding. We would have had $5.3 million more buying power. We would have had that much. There would have been no ask for a referendum because we would have had what the state would have given us based on inflation. Our budget for 24 that you approved back in June was balanced. And we had a balanced budget last year, and we had the auditors here in November, and we exceeded our budget results. So again, congratulations. It takes everyone to make it work. Our budget is balanced again. We are being fiscally responsible, but if not for the COVID funding, this would not be I'm not going to say it wouldn't be balanced. We would have had to cut $2 million more from the budget. The working budget is my budget that I update for any known changes. So what's changed since June? I added the proceeds from the admin building. When we sell the admin building, we're asking $500,000 for it. I did add $400,000 in one-time revenue for the sale of the admin building, just estimating conservatively. We had a few changes between salaries and benefits, a few more software costs associated with curriculum, and then a decrease in our capital needs. So those are the changes in the budget. Basically, we still have a balanced budget. It's a 1% basic increase on our expenditure. So overall, I think I'll have you approve that within the next month. Fiscal year 23, great job. That is the first year in the past 7 years that our revenues have exceeded our expenditures, that we did not deficit spend. We are managing our finances. Well, however, COVID funds played a huge part of that. And COVID funds are playing a huge part of the 24 budget, $2 million. Again, balanced budget. We're not going to go backwards. We're going to keep going forwards. And this is what our fund balance looks like. It's been down, going down, and finally 23, it's good to see that increase, as minor as it is. And just to remind you, the state average is 22%. Last year we were at 3.9%. That would wipe us out in one catastrophe. That won't even cover one of our payrolls. When we're budgeting and we look at the basic formula, when we're thinking about in negotiations what the unions are asking for, what the state's going to give us, if we offered a 0% to all the unions, all the employees, 0%, we would still owe $650,000 off the bat because of steps, lanes, and longevity. Unless there was a hard freeze in place, we would still owe $650,000. If the state gave us 0%, we would get 0. We would be behind there. This past year, the state gave us 4%, so the 1.1 million. The union settled for 4%. That's 2.1 million. There's a difference there. It means that there will be more cuts because next year we only get 2% and the raise is 2%. Our revenues for the past 5 years here, COVID has been a big part. You can see the pandemic started when I started, no coincidence. Just kidding. Complete coincidence. 4% of our money was federal. Federal title funds and federal special ed funds. You can see how much those COVID dollars have become a part of our budget, the green. The state this year has gotten a lot bigger because of 4%. The state, I don't remember the last time they gave us a 4% increase in state aids. They also gave us some special ed cross subsidy aid, which is a little difficult to understand, but that'll mean about $1 million more for us in special ed aid. Excuse me. Our special ed costs are about $12 million, and right now, about 60% of those costs are covered by aid. So this $1 million more approximately that we will get will still have a large cost subsidy, but it will be reduced. The taxes and other local are our tax revenue and our taconite revenue and our market value credits and a bunch of items that flow through the county. Our revenues have been fairly consistent with the exception of the COVID money. With the 4%, came several mandates. One of the biggest financial mandates that came is the unemployment insurance. We are now required to pay employees, unlicensed employees that are less than 12 months unemployment for the time they don't work over the summer. So cooks, bus drivers, paras, secretaries, all of them now earn unemployment for not working. That costs the district somewhere between, we're up to this fiscal year about $350,000. The state set aside money for 2 years to cover that. They covered it this first year. I'm excited. They will likely be able to cover it all next year too. I didn't think it would be enough, but it will be. After that, there's no funding source. That comes straight out of our general fund. You can read the other ones, the other big ones, sick and safe time. We now must track our hours for our subs and part-time employees and accumulate 1 hour of sick time for every 30 hours they work. So if you were a sub and you came to work at the district and you worked more than 80 hours, you would earn sick time that you could use, even though you're a sub. And that comes out of our general fund. There's the Paid Family Medical Leave Act, 3.5% tax. It's going to start in 2026, I believe, Casey?
Yes.
And that will be a tax on us, 3.5%, also a tax on employees. Our general fund expenditures, well, we've made $7 million in cuts, $7.5 million in the last 4 years. You can see our cuts have been consistent across the categories. No category has decreased more than another. Special ed has increased a little bit, but with our instruction and special ed, we are well above the amount we're putting to the classrooms, even though we are the 3rd largest geographic district in the state of Minnesota. And of our $60 million in expenditures, 83% is spent on salaries and benefits, spent on people. It's spent on classrooms to educate our students. We've cut almost everything we can away from the classrooms. There's not much more to cut. So there's no surprise here because everyone was told in November that our levy would increase by 6.8%. I'm telling you again, it's going to increase by 6.8%. There's not much we can do about that. The general fund levy is a 9.9% increase. The majority of that increase, $500,000 of it, is retiree health insurance. And it's strategic because we have sunsetted those benefits. Because we have sunsetted those benefits, we can levy for them and they don't come out of the general fund. The state only sets aside a certain amount of money for that levy. And if we don't start asking for it in our levy, then it may not be there when we need it. We do have our trust fund set aside that we're paying on. And when that OPEB levy is done, it will likely turn into retiree benefit levy. We have about 2.5 to 3 years left in our trust fund to pay for those retiree benefits. So the changes in the general fund, 611,000, like I said, 500,000 of it is retiree benefits. Within the past 5 years, our general fund levy has decreased 2%. With inflation, what it is, inflation in 22, 7% alone, our levy for our general fund has decreased over the past 5 years by 2%. We're collecting less money for the levy than we were back in 2019. The change in the debt service and the OPEB levy going up 375,000. Part of that has to do with the amount of fund balance that we're required to have. Our county is very good at collecting taxes. We must levy 105% according to law. And then we added a couple small bond issuances onto that. Do you have any questions for it?
Questions or comments from the board?
Very thorough, thank you.
Kara, I just was gonna have you clarify one thing. When you talk about, even if we didn't raise anything, it was 0%, but it's still gonna go up with the steps, lanes. Can you explain that a little bit, what steps and lanes are?
Yeah. So most of our employees, our union groups, get paid for the years of service. Their salary increases based on their years of service. So that's what the steps and lanes. Even if we said 0%, they still may move up a step, go over a lane. They may obtain more education so that they're paid more. This past year, we gave most groups 4%, and someone got a step and a lane and a 4%, and it worked out to 8%. So there's always different amounts. The 4% goes on the schedule, and then people earn more based on their years of experience.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Next item on the agenda is public comment. Julie, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
We have 3, and that's, does anyone wish to sign up, or sign up? Okay.
I'm going to read a brief introductory statement. The ISD 318 school board shall provide a specific period of time where persons may address the school board on any topic subject to the limitations of policy 206. All individual comments should be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more persons must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. The board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that is not included on the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. If there are more requests for public input time, then time is available. Priority will be given to persons that reside within the Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. This time I have 4 people. John Scott Casper, if you could approach the podium. I have a timer here for you.
John Casper, I live out in the Winnebago Park area. It's nice to be here and see what 4 million of our tax dollars can do in a remodel. It's astounding that we spent 4 million when we've been told we're broke for the last 6 years. It's also astounding that we are here considering we were told this building wasn't fit for our children. First, I want to address the fact that evidently you learned nothing from the bond referendum. We had one of the biggest turnouts during a non-general election in the history of Itasca County. The referendum was overwhelmingly defeated by 77%, I believe. So I would have hoped you learned from that. Lesson learned should have been, people cannot afford their property taxes to go up anymore. They're maxed out. Reasons why: 80 million school bond that we did not need, 70 million jail we did not need, 29 million addition to the arena we did not need. One of the largest sales tax combined between the city of Grand Rapids and the county in the state of Minnesota. All of that on the top of the fact that the average family in this county is paying $709 more a month for the last 2 years due to inflation. You mentioned inflation and that's hurting you, but it's hurting us out here also. Gas and groceries, etc. Median income in Itasca County is $36,000 for a single person, $56,000 for a family. You look at the fact that 26 bureaucrats in the school district are making between $92,000 and $189,000 a year. More than triple the single person's income and more than double a family's income in Itasca County. It's not sustainable. These people cannot keep paying these taxes. You haven't looked at cuts other than threatening cuts to programs and teachers. The bread and butter of the education system, teachers. If you cut 6 administrators, you save $1 million with salaries and benefits combined. $22,000 a year in medical benefits. That's not even talking about the retirement benefits. We have encouraged you to look at farming out the transportation department duties, but you refuse to even look at it. All you would have to do is write up a 1-page request for bids and send it out. So why should we think that you're seriously looking at budget cuts that are only detrimental to our children and the teachers? You have nearly 400 acres of land that the school owns, 100 acres that's valued at up to $1 million. That should be sold and put back on the tax rolls for revenue. Nobody is saying selling the forest land, which is used for education, to 20-acre parcels. We gave administrators a 7.5% increase in wages when you said you were broke. One administrator got a 16,000 bonus, another got a 10,000 bonus. There's no reason that the levy is to be raised at all this year. Not when you seriously haven't cut in areas you could be cutting. Early in your year, as required by law, you said a 13.5%, the maximum levy increase. As usual, you do this every year because then you can come back at this meeting and tell everybody we're only going to raise the levy 5 or 6%. The reason for that is when you tell the taxpayers that you actually save them 8% because you're only raising it 5% compared to 13.5. Well, that definitely sounds like the new math that you're trying to teach our children in the school to me. Because only a politician would raise your taxes and say that they saved you money on your taxes. That's been going on for years. If you don't get to a neutral levy, a neutral budget, I can guarantee you everybody on the board will be looking for other employment. Like I said earlier, the taxpayers are well informed now and they've had enough. I'd smile too. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Gabe Haga, is that right?
I can't top Scott Casper's message, and we gotta give a shout out to Scott Casper, Anthony Kujala, and Scott Preble for exposing a lot of your guys' lies. But sounds like COVID was your saving grace and the only thing that's kept you afloat. That's crazy. You would be even worse off if it wasn't for COVID. That's how horrible of a job you guys have done. Now you've turned into modern day redcoats and tried to save your butts. It's crazy. Wow, COVID is the only thing that saved you guys. And you want us to trust you with more taxes? You guys have failed. You're a sinking ship. That is embarrassing. Understand that you are suffering from inflation, but everyone in this room, in this district, are suffering. Imposing more taxes on us could be the difference between students having food at home or going hungry. Thanks.
Bill Olson.
Good evening. Just to keep it simple, I think what we see here is just a small representation of the people that are seriously concerned about the rising taxes. Myself personally, in the last handful of years, I can't believe how much my real estate taxes, combined taxes have gone up. Historically, I've lived in the county all my life, and it's alarming how much more every year I'm paying in taxes. I don't understand it. Obviously, we've been put in a hardship, many people, and it's probably coming down to if they can afford to buy decent food or not. Seriously, I'm not saying that's my case, but I'm certainly feeling it. And like may have been mentioned, is what has been done to try to correct this snowball effect that we're seeing. And another question would be, are we running to fail at some point? Like I said, I'm just trying to keep it simple, but people are screaming out there. I mean, it's actually coming down to, can we afford food? And that's quite literal. What are people gonna start losing their homes because they can't pay their taxes? Okay, for instance, let's say you can't afford to pay the taxes as they have been rising. Are these people, because they can't afford to pay their bills anymore, are they gonna seek county assistance, which is only gonna make matters worse? I would like to see the board here come up with something that looks promising and encouraging going forward. Seriously, I think there's something that really seriously needs to be done. I don't understand how the system works totally, but like I said in my introduction, to keep it simply, people are hurting. And it's even coming down to buying food. Thank you.
Last person signed up is Tim Balke.
My name is Tim Paulke. I live in the Wendigo Park area. I am an employee for the school district as a school bus driver. This is my 4th year. I have a little bit of inside view of what I see going on. To be honest with you, I'm very impressed with some of the things I have been exposed to with education. On the other hand, there's some things that I hear the students on the bus talking about that has me greatly concerned. I don't want to talk about theirs this evening. I'd like to talk with Mr. Gross. I know you've made that invitation available to all of us employees, so I'd like to do that with you sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to adjourn. Take a couple minutes to set up for the regular board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Pat.
Second, David.
Second by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is a Rife Center update. And it looks like we have a whole crew here.
We do. Thank you so much. So I'm Chantel Dowd, Director at the Rife Center. And I want to introduce to, I need to?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Okay, I am Chantel Dowd, Director at the Rife Center, and we're super happy to be here. We just had a wonderful production of The Nutcracker, and ever since COVID hit, we all know audiences have been dwindling, and we had 3 sold-out performances. So things are coming back, so it's very exciting. These students are incredibly talented, and I'm very, very happy to introduce our dance director. Bev Wilson has been a Rife dance director many years ago and really shaped the program to what it has been for over 30 years. And so we're very, very happy to have her back on our team at the Rife. So I would introduce Bev. Are you almost ready? Great. Do you want to come say anything? Yes. So here, this is Bev Wilson.
Good evening. It's nice to be here. We have 3 of our dancers from the Nutcracker. I'm not blanking on names again. That's terrible. Kendall is going to dance as Chocolate. Lily, and she is dancing the Arabian role, which is Coffee in the Land of Sweets. And then we have Elizabeth, who was our sugar plum fairy.
Okay, so I feel in the Christmas spirit now, right? Okay, next we have some of our theater students. Recently, we did a production of the show Matilda. And so our theater arts director, Katie Smith, will introduce who she brought with her.
Hello. So we're going to start with our Matilda, who's played by Poppy Kreitzer. I'm just going to do a really quick sound check though, because I have to connect to the Bluetooth. So you have to disconnect. Technology is so wonderful. Did you turn your Bluetooth off? There's my niece singing a cappella. Aha. This is just a sound check. Maybe. Maybe. So, for a little background, if you don't know the story of Matilda, Matilda is a remarkable young girl who develops telekinetic powers when she needs to stand up against an adult who's a bully, right? Noah, are you going to do your lines? No? Okay, so you're just going to have to emote without the motivation. You can do it though. So this is Poppy Kreitzer playing Matilda.
Have you wondered, well I have, about how when I say bet, for example, there's no way of knowing if red is the same thing in your head as red means in my head when someone says red. I'm not sure, but I wonder if inside my head, not just a bit different from some of my friends. These answers that come into my mind unbidden, these stories never to me fully written, and everyone shouting, they seem to like shouting. The noise in my head is incredibly loud, and it especially struck my dad and my mum, and the telly and the stories stop for just once. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to explain it right. This noise becomes anger, and the anger is like it's burning inside me. Would usually fade is on today, and the heat and the shouting. My heart is pounding, my eyes are burning. Suddenly, everything quiet. Like silence, but not really silence. Just that still sort of quiet, like the sound of a page being turned in a book, or a pause in a walk in the woods. And though the people around me, the mass still moving, the words you are forming cannot reach me anymore. And it is quiet, and I am wrong. into the eye of the storm.
So Anya and Noah, you don't have to sing into the camera. You can completely ignore the camera and sing to these lovely folks over here. It might be less stressful. I don't know. It might not be. It was too late. So next we have Anya Beck, who played the part of Miss Honey. And she's going to sing This Little Girl.
Stop being pathetic, Jenny. Just get on your feet, Jenny. You're going to march in there and give them a piece of your mind. Leave it alone, Jenny. The more that you try, the more you'll just look like a fool. This is not your problem. You've not the spine. You are a teacher, just go back to school. But this little girl, this miracle, she seems not to know that she's special at all. I once wanted to teach her. Instead, she's found me, pathetic little me, and another door closes, and Jenny's outside.
I'm guessing you want to do the color. And last but not least is Noah Jetlin, one of our seniors this year, who played the part of Miss Trunchbull, the rather abusive headmistress of the school. Here it is, The Smell of Rebellion.
It's coming late. I started reeking. Quiet! Back to when I'm speaking. Reeking with the most disturbing scent. Only the finest nostrils smell it, and I know it oh too well. It's the odor of rebellion. It's the bouquet of dissent. The smell of rebellion comes out in the sweat, and this head will get you sweating. And it won't be long before I smell the pong of aiding and abetting. A bit of his head will tell us with a head full of rebellious thoughts. Hold. Just like a rotten egg floats to the top of a bucket of water. I'll be flooding sadness with the stirring up creepy best protest. The funk of defiance, the odor of coup, the walk of act in progress. Once you exercise these demons, they shall be too proof for scheming. Some double time and discipline stop the rock from setting in. Alright, let's step it up. Double time. 1, 2, 3, 4, discipline, discipline to the one. Listening is miss. I need a tissue. It's an issue. We can fix. There is no mystery. The mastery, the art of class. Interesting is discipline. Discipline. The smell of rebellion. The stench of revolt. Marie agree. Be multiplying with the resistance. Upon our descent. The funk of moral camaraderie. so down. And the salary sensory holes. And I will not stop till you are quiet, till this rebellion is quashed, till glorious way this Dublin has walked. This evening
Thus concludes our performance for the day. Thank you so much for having us. You're gonna say something?
Yeah, so just thank you all so much for your support of the Rife Center and this partnership between the school district. This is what comes out of that building. It's pretty unbelievable. We have right now about 150 students in the dance program, everything from tap to adult ballet to jazz. It's an active building, all hours of the day, every day of the week. And our theater program has really been growing, and we've had as many as 80 students in one production that rehearse for, several weeks and then put on a performance. So thank you all, and I encourage you to come and see what the students around here are doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the principal's report from Cohasset Elementary.
Good evening. I feel like I should have students from Cohasset with me. It's like, that was a great thing to follow. Well, just an update on Cohasset. We've had, can you guys hear me okay? Yes? Okay. We've had an exciting week this past week. We actually were asked by the Minnesota PBIS Resource and Training to provide networking and professional development for other schools in Minnesota. So they were showcasing Cohasset Elementary, and we got to share sort of our journey with PBIS, our behavior matrix, how our data's been going down, our PBS rewards store, all the different things we're doing with kids. So that was really exciting. A lot of people in Minnesota got to ask us questions about our student-led videos, how we get staff buy-in, and a number of things. So we were happy to be a resource for other school districts in the state. And the staff and the team was really proud to present that. So that's been exciting over the last week. We are deep in our winter screening right now. We are assessing for our social emotional screener and SABRS, and that will figure out which students are going to get tier 2 and tier 3 interventions when we get back from break. We are also assessing for math and reading, and that will help guide our teachers and our early out time after break for looking at student data and figuring out how we can help support the kids as we move forward to our spring screening. So we have been busy. That takes almost a few weeks to get everybody screened and tested, and with people being gone almost the whole month. Volunteers, we have had a number of volunteers. We are so thankful and grateful for our volunteers. We have a sewing club, if you didn't know that, at Cohasset, and we have a grandparent that comes in, and we actually have a number of students who participate, and we wrote a grant and got sewing machines and materials, and the kids are sewing up a storm, and it's something to do when they get to school early. So that's been exciting to see. We have volunteers of grandparents that come in and read with kids, just give a little extra boost, or those kids that maybe don't get to read at home as much with a family member, we have them read with them. Our gym teacher is working on starting a jump roping club, so that's something new, so stay tuned, not sure, it's new. And our music teacher continues to work on our ukulele club and our violin club. So lots of different opportunities for kids and volunteer work at Cohasset, which is really exciting. And last but not least, next week on Monday, our students have been busy getting ready for our winter program. So everyone's free to come to that on Monday. It's our second annual one at our school, and we're really proud to have the community come into our school. We can fit everyone in our gym. We got the chairs. We got the custodians have it down to a science, how they get everything in and out, and the parking, and it works. And the community is really excited to come in, and we love to have it. The kids decorate the gym and the hallway, so we're very excited.
What time?
1 o'clock is K2, and 2 o'clock is 3-5. So you're welcome to stay for both. So that is what's been going on at Cohasset. We're a busy school, but we also have about 323 kids up to date. So we're up about 50 kids from last year. We definitely can feel it. It's busy, but we're staying busy and working hard. Any questions for me?
Mr. Chair, no questions. Joe, just thank you for the work you're doing. Obviously, it's evident by being asked to share what you're doing in Cohasset with your counterparts across the state. So it says a lot itself.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Joe.
Yep, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is school resource officer update. Vicki Norris and Troy Scott.
Good evening, I'm Officer Troy Scott, the school resource officer at high school. Vicki Norris is the school resource officer at the middle school. And then we have a new leader of our group, Captain Jeremy Nelson back there, took over for Kevin Ott. Sorry, I don't usually dress like this, but I was coaching my daughter's hockey team before I came here, so I jetted over here as fast as I can. The beginning of this year, this is the first time we talked, it was a little rocky to start. The legislature changed some laws within the Department of Education that was pertaining to use of force within the schools. That was kind of the midnight hour, I felt like, right before school started. End of August, mid-August, when I came out, we were we don't know what we're gonna do. I know, talked to Mr. Gross, and he had talked to Tom Pagel, city administrator, and asked if we were even gonna have SROs in schools, because at that time, several agencies across Minnesota were pulling SROs from the schools. We were definitely had conversations with our city attorney, along with other agencies in the area. We were definitely dedicated to, our number one goal is to provide safety for kids. So that's what, ultimately we're here to do. So we were dedicated as a department, and the two of us, to be in the school still. Some more clarification came out from AG's office, and we also attended a use of force training down in the metro with it was called Storm Group. Try to fit in use of force within what the constraints of that law were. And I should say, if people here aren't aware that this even happened, the change was basically deeming SROs agents of the school, and then also changing what force we could use on students within the school. Also changing this summer was obviously they legalized marijuana use and possession in the state of Minnesota. I can't say we've seen a ton of change within the school with that at this point in time, except we're starting to see like pulp gummies or candies are starting to show up. Officer Norris had a fairly large case at the middle school pertaining to this, stemmed from home, and I know they ended up with a couple hundred. I mean, when they package these things, this is what's coming out for everybody. It's not just a school issue, but they look exactly like a candy. In fact, I think one that we found were Starburst and Nerdlos, is that right? So they are the same name, and they have Wonka plastered on there just like they are a candy. So if they're laying on a table, somebody pulls them, they're laying on a table, and your young child comes by and thinks they're candy, it's something that we're going to be dealing with, unfortunately, in the future, I believe. So.
With that, I just want to add that even though our laws changed with marijuana and how we charge it, and we are going to see, we've seen a little bit of an uptake, and we had a couple of cases. The social workers laws haven't changed, where the use of drugs in front of kids, like that hasn't changed. So we work hand in hand with social services, so you can still open cases under the child protection stuff, just to clarify.
And then just a couple of things we've worked on in the high school, try not to get too in depth with some cases, but we did have, at the high school, we had one student bring what we found out later to be a butter knife to school and threaten another student. We had a gun, what was believed to be a handgun brandish. It turned out to be an exact replica BB gun of the Glock pistol. And then also on the day after that, we also grabbed a knife from another student, a backpack.
We've also had some knife calls at the middle school as well, that we're taking care of.
So we're still trying to get a hold on stuff like that, but it keeps popping up from time to time. Not all bad things with,
We have a new threat assessment protocol that we've been doing. We have put that into use, obviously. A lot of times we can't go into details about that in a public area, but just let you know that that has been used and it's been, I think, pretty successful so far.
Mickey has been coaching and been involved heavily within the Special Olympics in Itasca County. And for years we've done a fundraiser with the Polar Plunge. However, that was with the state. We were seeing very little returns from money-wise from the state. Most of that money we raised here in Itasca County went down for the head of our Minnesota Special Olympics. Last year, Mickey was saying that they couldn't afford jerseys or they had to buy their own jerseys and they didn't really have a whole lot of money to support our own athletes here in Itasca County after we did all that work. I don't know if it was just Mickey, but a group of people started what's called the Itasca Ironside, which is for Special Olympics.
Itasca Ironside.
It's been there, okay. Anyway, so she's using that to raise money now. So she's doing a broom ball tournament in
Gonna be in Charlotte,
When?
March 2nd.
March 2nd. That'll be, and we're still looking for teams. So if you're interested in getting a broom ball team together, I can invite you out to the ice.
Or interested in helping.
You don't have to win, you just have to just be out there to raise money, right?
We're just doing something different. We're gonna try it, see if it works. And we have, I don't know if both Troy and I, like not just our SROs, but we've coached in the community. And I coach basketball and I'm gonna be doing softball for Special Olympics this year. So just, get out and a lot of the athletes are the kids in our schools.
Or former graduates.
Or former graduates, yeah.
So, if you're interested in that, and just for me, I've been busy outside of the SRO. We've been rather busy. I started coaching football for Spawn. Asked me last year if I could coach football. I told him I said I don't know anything about football, and he talked into it, guided me through it. So it's been a great experience. It's come in extremely handy at times because now I know a lot of the students coming in. So that's been great. They bug me nonstop, all of my players, so that's been fun. Also, I'd like to give just a accolade to the teachers. I was a guest speaker for 4 hours in one class. And by the end of the day, I think I walked out of the car, or walked to my squad car, sat there for probably 15, 20 minutes, and just closed my eyes and like, that was exhausting. So I was like, I remember walking out and I said, your jobs are not easy talking like this at all for an hour straight and to do it every day, all day long. So it was an interesting experience at least. So I hope the kids learned something from me that day.
The only thing I'll add is training. We've had some already. We go to the juvenile conference every year. And then we had some extra training with the new laws. Also, DARE this year has teamed up with SROs. So their training is going to be school safety training, and they're together. So we could possibly have an opportunity to maybe do some more training later on this year.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I want to thank you for the work you do to keep our schools and our students safe. We've had, you referenced that the Attorney General and the legislature had some rulings My understanding is that for you personally, that wasn't a huge change. It wasn't you suddenly did things differently than you were doing it months ago. Is that correct, or am I speaking?
It's, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that because
It's yes and no.
yes, right? We hope that's the case, but like everything seems like when a law like this is made, somebody ends up testing it, let's say, and we almost have to figure out what we're going with it. I know we talked with local representation here, and the thought was in February of this year, they want to reopen that to clarify a lot of language within that law. But right now, we're bound by what it said. I know the AG made a statement, but that's not the legislator.
And we met with Mr. Gross and then also our city attorney and our attorneys, and it's been in our bosses. And everybody's been guiding us pretty well on like what we're gonna do. And we met again after school started just to see how are things going. Cause it's different. It is a little different. I would say more so for me than for Troy because I deal with younger kids. So I think that might be the difference. It was probably looked a little different for me, not as much for Troy, just because the kids I deal with are younger.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to thank you for that, in a sense of you were proactive on change and you went and looked at what we could do different instead of sitting on the sidelines like I'd seen some of our counterparts down in the cities and just use that as a crutch of, we can't do this anymore. So I appreciate the fact, Matt, your chief, you two, your captain, sitting down and looking at this with the city attorney and how are we going to make this work, right? Instead of just sitting on the sidelines and saying, well, we can't. So I appreciate that initiative and taking that forward. And as David and I learned at our delegate assembly this year, this is on the agenda to try to get the language changed that you mentioned. So it's there. We'll see how it lands in the session this coming part. So I appreciate the work being proactive on instead of being reactive, so to speak.
Mr. Chair, just to pick up on something that Mickey said, that CSTAG threat protocol is what we trained all of our threat assessment teams in all of our buildings. We just spoke about it earlier this year. All of our threat assessment teams went through it, so we have consistency in our buildings and how we're going to respond to a threat, whether a threat's credible or not, so that we're doing it the same all the time. We've got people that are trained going through it, and you don't always know how it's going to work when you put it in practice, but I know that they've gone through the process a couple times at the middle school and the high school both, and people have been pretty appreciative of the process. So I just wanted to kind of circle back to that and make that connection. So thanks for bringing that up, Nikki.
Anything else, Mark?
No, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the 11/14/23 regular school board meeting. Do I have a motion? Moved by Pat. Second by Mindy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the November 2023 claims in the amount of $5,918,730.58.
So moved, David.
Moved by David.
Support.
Second by Ben. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims are approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Casey.
Good evening. Tonight we have Lynette Algren, food and nutrition resignation, Brandy Beyer, ESP resignation, Lynn Clafton, food and nutrition replacement hire, Kaden Callanan, Big Fork High School assistant boys basketball coach replacement hire, Judy Lanners, food and nutrition replacement hire, Mark Motherway, 9th grade wrestling coach replacement hire, Troy Myers,
Big Fork Junior High Boys Basketball Coach Replacement Hire. Dale Pickett, Bus Driver Resignation. Taylor Riordan, Custodian Resignation. Emily Sod, Big Fork Cheerleading Advisor Replacement Hire. David Scally, Special Education Teacher Resignation. And Janice Raw, Custodian Replacement Hire. I'm recommending approval of the consent agenda.
So moved by Pat. Support. Second by Ben. There's no discussion on consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next item, Casey, administrative professional earn the second safe time, MOU.
Chair, if you don't mind, can I talk about these next 5 in a group?
Sure.
Okay, so the next 5 MOUs are all the same. They're all related to the Earned Sick and Safe Time law that's going into effect January 1st. We do know that law supersedes contracts, but we have worked with our units to try to get these MOUs in place so that the contract is clear on how we're going to make sure we're in compliance with the law. For each of these units, our MOU will not revise the accruals for sick leave. All of our units currently accrue enough sick leave to meet the law, so that's good on a cost side. We will be retitling sick leave to sick and safe leave to meet the law. The MOU will expand the relationships that our employees can utilize sick leave for, and that will include just those required by the new law. The MOU will also expand the reasons that employees are able to utilize their sick leave. And then we will match the relationships for our bereavement, similar to what we're doing now. And then what is new for us as far as accruals go, and Kara talked about it a little bit with the update, but our substitute employees, our casual employees, any of those employees that don't have a regular schedule are now also going to be accruing sick leave. They do need to meet the requirement of working 80 hours in a year, and then they will accrue the minimum that we have to by law, which is 1 hour for every 30 hours worked, up to a maximum of 48. And we do also have to allow them to accumulate up to 80. And then this MOU will go into effect and run through the end of the contract, at which time, if the law is still in place, we'll be looking to just roll that into contracts.
Julie, can we approve all these at once?
We can unless someone has a question on one, but yes.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve sick and safe time MOUs for the administrative professionals, the director unit, principals unit, the service unit, and the confidential administrator unit.
So
moved by Pat.
Second, David.
Second by David. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, Casey, you mentioned we're following the statute by doing this, right?
Yes.
And when I classify this, is it fair to say that this is an unfunded mandate in itself?
Yes.
For the state of Minnesota?
Yes.
And what would happen if we didn't do what we're doing today? What's the sanctions on that for the state, do you know?
It would be similar to like the wage theft law that went into play back in 2019. An employee would need to file a complaint with the state office, and then they would investigate.
I would assume in the end result, we would be liable for some type of financial
Right.
issue on the other side of that.
Right.
And the reason why I'm asking, it's more so for the public, with an understanding on why we're doing what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of things that come from the state of Minnesota legislatively that we get tagged with, as we've been talking about this last legislative session, on unfunded mandates. And again, here's another one that's there, but we're required to do it. If not, we get spanked on the other end of it, if you will. So thank you, Casey.
Yeah, and can I note too, there are 2 more, the bus drivers unit and ESPs that are still reviewing. So those will come to a future meeting.
Casey, the units have reviewed these 5. Has there been any concern or pushback of any note?
No, not at all. They're thankful for the extra relationships and flexibility.
Thank you for the clarity.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The MOUs are all approved.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, approved final 2023 payable 2024 levy. Kara?
Good evening. Back in September, you approved a max levy. We didn't have an amount at that time. It's just a term. It's a formality. At this point, you do have an amount in front of you, so I'm asking that you approve the 23 pay 24 levy in the amount of $15,500,114.
Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, David.
Moved by David. Support. Second by Mindy. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Casey, on a matter of clarification, I know it was mentioned tonight, there were some posts on Facebook that we started out at 13.5%. And I don't believe that was the case when we set the levy back in September. I believe it was always at 6.8, not that I'm happy about 6.8, but it's just a point of clarification that some misinformation on that 13.5. So it was 6.8 then, it's 6.8 now.
Yeah, we didn't even have a levy amount back in September. They weren't done calculating it, the state. The last calculation I got was November 28th, but it was consistent with the amount that was calculated on prior to November 16th.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2024 levy is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the resolution establishing combined polling places. Kara?
As state statute requires, I'm asking you to approve the combined polling places. This will be the same polling places as in the past year. The state requires us to do this, as I said. This year, the election will be a general election, so we will be required to use where the county labels the election places, but this is a formality that we have to do.
Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, David.
Moved by David. Second.
Second.
Second by Mindy. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, just a kind of point of clarification, we have to do this annually, is that correct?
By December 31st of every
And
year.
it's only for special elections.
Right, so this really won't come into play next year at all.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is passed. Next item on the agenda is to approve a resolution to accept donations and gifts for July, August, September 2023. Clerk Marty, could you read the resolution?
Resolution for accepting donations. Whereas Minnesota Statutes 123B.02 subdivision 6 provides, quote, the board may receive for the benefit of the district requests, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district or for the benefit of pupils thereof, including trusts created to provide pupils of the district with advanced education after completion of high school in the advancement of education, end quote. And whereas Minnesota Statutes 465.03 provide, quote, any city, county, school district, or town may accept a grant or device of real or personal property and maintain such property for the benefit of its citizens in accordance with the terms prescribed by the donor. Nothing herein shall authorize such acceptance or use for religious or sectarian purposes. Every such acceptance shall be by resolution of the governing body, adopted by a 2/3 majority of its members, expressing such terms in full, end quote. Therefore, be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 318 gratefully accepts the following donations as shown in the attachments provided to the board. July of 2023, $18,812.01. In August of 2023, $436,979.91. And in September of 2023, $2,640.
Looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Ben, second.
I'll second,
Second
Mr.
by
Chair, with
Pat.
a correction. I think it's actually 18,000, not 18 million.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you. 18,000.
Not that the 18 million wouldn't be nice. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, again, as we've said in the past, I just want to thank our partners in the community, whether it be private individuals or businesses that we partner with, donate to our cause here at the school to help our students in many different forms, financially, in various activities throughout Grand Rapids and Big Fork. So thank you to them.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Next item on the agenda is motion to approve resolution for the inclusion of seasonal and rec property in the referendum market value of school districts. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that we heard tonight that our community is challenged with is taxes. And when I was out talking to people about the referendum, that certainly came up. Another thing that came up quite often was the inequity that exists and the disproportionate sort of way that the tax system is structured in communities like ours, where we have a significant amount of seasonal and recreational property compared to other school districts. Itasca County has a much smaller percentage of land that's actually taxable to begin with, which puts, kind of a disproportionate amount of pressure on our residents. And then beyond that, we have a great deal of seasonal recreational property, which kind of turns it up even more. And the way that operating referendums are set up in state law, seasonal recreational property is not affected. And so something that's been discussed in the past is including all property owners in the district in that calculation, which would level the playing field for our residents in our school district. And so this resolution supports the inclusion of seasonal and recreational property in referendum market value of school districts, which again would take the pressure off, reduce the obligation of local residents in operating referendums in the state of Minnesota.
Looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
So
moved by Pat. Second by Mindy. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, this was changed in 2001 legislatively. And it's not that these people are not paying taxes, they're just not paying it to the school district anymore. If there was an operating referendum, they're paying it to the state of Minnesota, and it's going into the general fund. And this is an initiative of the State School Board Association as well as Minnesota Rural Education Association to have the law repealed and just have those dollars diverted back to the respective school districts that have seasonal rec property in it. So it comes basically out of the general fund again, back to the districts if they had an operating referendum. Again, it's just a shift of dollars that shifted in 2001 from us, if you will, for the ones that had operating referendums. It just went into the general fund for the state of Minnesota.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Next item on the agenda is to accept the second reading and approve policy 202. Superintendent Gross.
All right, we're in our second year of having student representation on the school board, and we've learned and we're kind of working through this. We made some changes to the policy, and the policy change is really just aligning kind of like with what the high school league does as far as students and expectations, and had a chance to talk to, our reps about this a little bit and others, and there was support that there should be a level of expectation there as far as their, standing in the school. And so our committee looked at this as well and comes with their approval.
Looking for a motion to accept the second reading.
Second.
Mindy and Ben, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Second reading is approved for policy 202. Next item on the agenda is to accept the second reading and approve policy 806, crisis management. Superintendent Gross.
Yeah, quickly, like we discussed at the previous meeting, there were some changes made in terms of how active shooter drills are handled. Again, we don't do those kind of live action shooter drills, but there are some law changes, and this policy reflects those, and so I'd recommend approval.
Looking for a motion to accept the second reading of 806.
So moved, David.
Moved by David.
Support.
Second by Ben. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading of 806 is approved. Next item on the agenda is collaboration progress report. Dr. Fred Nolan. And I think he's coming to us through Zoom. There you are.
Hello. Okay. You guys have had a long meeting here. Julie, is there a way to show the report, or do they have it in front of them?
I can bring it up on the screen. Just give me a moment.
Sure, I think that'd be helpful for anybody watching. While Julie's doing this, this is after many months of work. You were proactive in going into a resolution to potentially share services and educational opportunities for students with Nashwauk-Keewatin and other districts in the IAS cooperative who wish to participate in any part of it. So 9 months in, since I was contracted to work on 3 of these, I thought it'd be a good time to give a report, get some input from the board, and kind of tell you where we're heading on this. So while Julie's bringing that up, the major work has been in the area of shared classes at the high school. These would be synchronous classes primarily that could be gone over the internet from one high school to the other, students receiving in one school and students, a teacher sending in the other school. There you go. If you make this a little larger so people might be able to read it, that'd be wonderful. There we go. And I want to thank Darren Hofstede and Ken DeCoster for participating in this as the high school principal, and Carol Kopp and others on the labor management committee. So if you kind of scroll down a bit, Julie, keep going. There we go, ABC. Okay, so the question came up, well, how important is this? I mean, why should we work on this? Because it's a daunting task, as you can see as we get further in the report. And so I looked at the registration information from last winter for this school year. And luckily had full reports from 4 of the 7 high schools in the IAS. And as I looked at that, I saw that 8 semester courses are currently offered at one school that could have been shared with another school, and students who either were in that school and the class was canceled because it didn't have enough students, or in your case, in Grand Rapids High School, students couldn't take the class because it was oversubscribed, had over 36, 40 students in it. They could have taken that class had they taken it from another high school. 6 courses were currently being offered identically between 2 schools. the total enrollment was less than 25 students. And if you take 25 students as kind of being the top for a shared class, because it's a little more complicated than an in-person class, that could have resulted in some savings or else another offering at the high school. But I think the key finding, the one that really surprised everyone a bit, was in 4 schools, there were 29 courses that enrolled fewer than 18 students. They weren't even offered at any of the other IASC high schools. Had they been offered, they could have moved up to 25 students, and schools that are the high schools didn't even know these courses existed. There were some like ancient civilizations, World War II, different types of psychology, sociology, but a number in the histories and science areas. Those students could have enrolled and said, boy, that's an opportunity I didn't have. So the principals looked at that data in their second meeting, and they strongly recommended that this really be worked on. There was an ad hoc group of labor leaders and superintendents who looked at this and said, okay, we're willing to do this work, but we see where the benefit is, but this is a number of tasks. And so we're working with a general vision and mission statement to create a system that's relatively easy to implement. This is not easy stuff, and which will result in more shared classes, and thereby creating, if you scroll up a little bit, Julie, thereby creating more opportunities for students, job satisfaction for teachers, and keep the funding within the IASC community of school districts. One of the things I found out, and I'm learning a lot in this process, is that a number of schools are contracting with service providers outside of IASC. And so this might reduce the amount that's going to those outside providers and keep it within your community. And by teacher satisfaction, I'm not thinking that they're going to say, oh, great, I got a shared class. But what you don't want is all the complaints about the problems and the lack of coordination, and they're losing teaching time. And I don't want to do that again. What you want is them to say, yeah, it was a good opportunity. It worked pretty well. I'm willing to do it again because I see the opportunities for kids. And I actually enjoyed teaching something that was in my area of expertise. Then, so the agreement now is to populate 10 small teams to work on various issues that are in the way right now. Why are there so few classes being shared? Just look at this 10 issues, but let's look at number 1. In every district except Greenway, there's nothing in writing about this. There's nothing about when do principals have to approach teachers? Is there compensation for teachers? Do teachers have to accept or not accept? There's really nothing. It's a sort of a nebulous area, and everybody that I got the feedback from, I got the sense that nobody really wants to tread there. They don't really know where they're going. And so the first thing to do would be put together a template, kind of like the MOUs you agreed to earlier this evening. And then you would fill in the blanks with your teacher union so that teachers, administrators know what the ground rules were. They knew how to negotiate, when teachers had to be approached, did they have a right to refuse, et cetera, et cetera. And we've already got some volunteers for this group. We're going to be working to populate all of these 10 working groups and begin working on them over the course of this winter. So Julie, if you just kind of scroll down, I'm not going to go through each one, but if there's one you want to ask a question about, please say something. And so we're going to be working on all these different things. Developing a common calendar is part of this, because one of the huge issues is that right now you have some schools that have Wednesday early releases, and some schools have a certain day off each month. Schools, high schools that would be in this grouping that would be sharing calendars would have to have the identical calendar, because you can't have kids missing 20% of the time. It's not going to work. They need to have a common 2-hour late bell schedule. And so all these things have to be so that it's relatively seamless and the kids are in class with their partner school as many days of the year as you possibly can. and don't have things that are going to interrupt that. And number 11, I can tell you that Jackie Skelly of IASC has updated the guidelines. I put this in here to make sure that all this stuff is put together in one location so people have access to it. So if you scroll down a little bit more, the plan, as I said, is to work these together, and we'll be coming back to you in the spring, because one of the concerns about the staff is, will the administration and board support this? And understand, this affects a fairly small percentage of your high school students in 11th and 12th grade, and an even smaller percentage of your teachers. And for you in Grand Rapids, you'll have to make a separate decision. Do we put Big Fork into this consortium with a common calendar, common bell schedule? And their bell schedule is very much like the five other high schools. There's 6 that have pretty much the same bell schedule. Your high school is a little different because it's so large. So we'll be coming back to you in the spring, maybe early summer, to make a decision for the 25-26 school year. I think it's going to take long enough that really not much is going to happen for next school year to get this off the ground. And the genius of the IASC agreement that you worked hard on and the IASC board approved is each of these areas of cooperation, and you have 6 or 8 of them on your resolution, but each of these areas would have its own group of school districts that would be involved. And in your case, you could make a different decision for Big Fork or Grand Rapids High School. Just kind of giving you a heads up. They'll be coming back to you for a decision. This is just informational at this point. So I'm going to stop now. That's the biggest, most complicated part of this, and see if there's any questions before we move into teacher mentoring.
Doesn't sound like it. Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, teacher mentoring is a much more loosely connected situation. We had a great meeting. I want to thank Ashley Linder and Ryan DeBay for sharing your robust area program in this area and teacher induction. The idea is we're going to come up with a template based on some model programs and some recommendations, and then each district would line up its program next to it. So you'd have different areas such as recruitment of mentors, such as topics to be discussed, required topics to be discussed, such as peer coaching, classroom observations. And then each district among the 7 IASC, including IASC, which would be its own system, could put in how they were handling that section. And so you could, at a glance, see where there's gaps, where there's overlap, and see where you could cooperate. In some areas of cooperation, maybe training for mentors, and also finding mentors for what I call one-off positions, a social worker, a single high school science teacher in a very small district. There's nobody else who can mentor them on the content of what they're doing, and you may be able to do that across districts. So this is going to require much less coordination. I think will be easily done by March with this one, and you'll have a resource for you. And it may change some mentoring in some districts, and may not change much at all in some districts such as yours, which you have a fairly robust program. So those are the areas I'm reporting on, and want to thank you for this opportunity to work with your teachers and your staff, and look forward to continuing that in the next half of the school year.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Nolan before we move on?
Mr. Chair, Fred, I appreciate the work, and I appreciate the work in regards to creating opportunities for kids, whether it be us taking advantage of that at 318, or whether it be other school districts within IAS taking advantage of that aspect of it. That's what we're in the business for, is to create opportunities for kids, educational, and it appears based on this work, we're moving in that direction where we can create more opportunities. So thank you for that work, along with our employees and the other employees in the other districts.
Very true, Pat. That's what we're all about. Yep.
What else? Thank you, Dr. Nolan.
Thank
Next item on the agenda is board reports, and let's start with Summer and Owen.
So a few clubs activities have been going on. So the first one is Student Council is starting a new tradition of tireless teacher and staff member award. And this is to elect a teacher, staff member every week for the whole year, just to recognize teachers who have gone above and beyond for students. And our first poll had 82 nominations, and Mrs. Lindstrom was the winner. And then some more updates from Student Council that has a lot going on within the next few months is Snowball is a big one that's coming up later in February. And then Student Council started a door decorating contest, and they're gonna start a few fundraisers like Candy King Grams. And then they are also gonna plan a pep fest the last week of school before break. And then for HOSA, which is a student-led organization of students interested in the healthcare field, is throwing a holiday party for the special education students at tech school.
Okay, and then Key Club had a successful Toys for Tots fundraiser, and two of our seniors, Riley Toyman and Ben Harker, both received academic all-state awards. And choir is having their holiday concert this month, soon, like this week-ish. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Pat, what do you have?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, as I mentioned earlier through our meeting here, David and I attended the delegate assembly, Minnesota State School Board Association delegate assembly. We've been delegates for the last, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it's been. But give you an idea, there was 23 resolutions that were brought forward, 15 passed, 4 failed, and there was 3 that failed on a lack of a motion or a second. And we talked about the SROs that was adopted by the State School Board Association as one of the initiatives to try to get language changed in regards to that. And the other one was seasonal rec, which we talked about. We passed a resolution for that as well. It was, I'll say, a little contentious this year. In all the years that I've been there, there's a little bit of a metro-rural divide in regards to policy issues in that, and it showed this year at the delegate assembly. But I got to say, the staff at MSBA handled it very well, and some of those resolutions failed. Obviously, the State School Board Association, there's a lot of rural districts that are members of that, and that's so going forward. With that, there was just a number of meetings that I attended, and you know, we talked about the truth in taxation hearing, and I was guessing maybe 25 to 30 people. I appreciate them coming and attending and understanding what it's all about and what we have here at the district with it. I appreciate the comments from people, whether we agree or disagree. Some of the information was not factual, some of it in their eyes was factual, but what I appreciate, democracy was at work tonight. There was an opportunity for the public to speak. We had 4 people from the public speaking, and I think it's important that we have that dialogue going forward. And I would just encourage the people that were here tonight, anytime you have questions, reach out to our board chair, Mark Schroeder, our superintendent. There's nothing here that we're hiding. It's all public information. It's all public record stuff. And the more we create dialogue, the better off for all of us going forward, so that we're actually talking about factual information going forward. And as we all know, the misinformation on Facebook, and not just in regards to school district, but just government in general, is really amped up, if you will. And what's really disappointing to me is that people won't reach out and ask the questions, so they have factual information. It's not that I don't disagree with them talking about it, but at least talk about the facts going forward. So again, I appreciate people coming tonight. I appreciate the 4 speakers that spoke here at the Truth in Taxation. That's what it's there for. That's what it's all about. And enough of my rant about it. So, thank you. And lastly, I just want to wish our staff, all of our staff, a Merry Christmas. This is our last board meeting. We'll see you next year, and Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you.
David?
I want to echo Pat's comments. Great greetings to everyone. We have a great staff working really hard under tough conditions. And special note of thanks to Owen and Summer for your report tonight. Much appreciated. Thanks for being here tonight. We had an ESP Labor Management Committee meeting on December 7th. This is a great opportunity. It's a relatively new committee for us, and it's an opportunity for paraprofessionals to meet with administrative staff and to just put on the table any issues that are of concern across the board. This is not for solving somebody's individual concern, but it was a great opportunity. For example, one person brought forward that they knew that people were missing their ESP breaks, and how can that be addressed? And that was addressed at the meeting. And there are a number of other things that are being addressed at that meeting. So that's a great open exchange for the administration and ESP to have together. Pat noted the delegate assembly that we had. The Boys and Girls Club met late last month. The Boys and Girls Club in our community, they're meeting at the middle school right now. That club is undergoing a shift effective January 1st. Boys and Girls Club members now will pay $60 a week to participate, which is a pretty significant jump from earlier it was $20 a year to be a member all year. But the numbers are just based on the financial support that we've been able to get to the Boys and Girls Club. So more on that later.
Thank you, David. Yeah.
I have no meetings.
Mindy? No, I don't either. Superintendent's report, Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the board's work tonight. It's not easy, and you have responsibility to balance the needs of the community with the needs of the school district and the school budget. So I appreciate your leadership there. Just an update on reductions. As we've done the last 4 years now, we've begun the reduction process. We're a little bit earlier this year. That was one of the requests of staff. And so we've had a number of meetings, some with the board, to talk through what we can learn from the failed referendum. Had some feedback from community members about that as well. And continue to learn. We're in the learning phase and trying to listen to that, and how that plays out into our future budget planning. Many school districts across the state in our shoes, especially in outstate Minnesota, Thief River Falls, some neighboring school districts, Rochester, I Falls, that are going to be making some cuts this upcoming spring. Also met with the principals today to initiate the process, going over the current situation budget-wise, taking a look at reductions we have made. You saw tonight in some of the graphs that we've taken a pretty balanced approach to that. That shows up in our expenditure percentages across time. And then looking forward to set the stage for the upcoming reductions. Again, one of the things that we've been talking about is what we can learn, and one of the things we heard loud and clear from our community in October was, what are you going to cut if this doesn't go? We talked about it, and that was perceived as a threat. I want to be able to get better at that, so we can talk about those things and consequences of things like that happening without it sounding threatening. So some learning to do there. Our timeline moving forward, getting input from administration, of course. We've got a finance committee meeting coming up Wednesday. That's made up of some community members, board, myself, Kara on the business side, and staff. We'll be getting some feedback from staff and community in January, and then ultimately working towards those decisions mostly in March and beginning of April. We're going to continue to struggle with the budget until revenues and expenditures are lined up. And so there'll be plenty of work to do looking ahead. Let's see, we got some data back from our survey that we did of staff and parents relative to the referendum. We asked people if they voted, if they were willing to share how they voted and what got in the way of support, and if they voted yes, what they thought we could do better. The majority of staff voted in the election, and the majority of those who reported voting in favor of at least one question. On the parent side, we had almost 700 people respond to that, which I thought was pretty good. About 70% of those parents voted, or people that responded, and only about half voted in favor. So we didn't do very well with our parents, and we have to do better with our parents in the future. Both of the results were consistent when talking or getting feedback from people that didn't support. Taxes was the reason mentioned the most. I think we heard that tonight a bunch. And then the second probably would be concerns about how's the district budgeting, how's the district using its money. And so we're going to have to continue to work at being transparent, putting information out like we did tonight to gain the confidence and trust of the community. That'll be important moving forward. We've had a couple meetings of our strategy team. Anna Lloyd's been doing an incredible job of facilitating that group and structuring and keeping things on track. That team's made up of Anna, Ryan DeBay, who you heard from tonight, principal reps, union president from the teachers, MTSS coordinator, myself, some district leaders there. And really the purpose of that team is to implement the operational plan. And so we've got a few things in the queue. One is improving assessment conditions. We feel it's really important that the results that we get, and we saw some great data tonight, third grade scores up over 7%. But ensuring that the results that we get, whether they're on short cycle assessments or MCAs, that they actually represent the learning. We have some students that probably aren't giving us their full effort on those, and we don't want that to hold them back. We don't want those results to hold us back, and we want to be able to make good decisions with those. So how can we just ensure that we're getting our results that match our learning? Another thing we're working on is how best to use data in our early out time. Another thing is developing some instructional protocols so we have some consistent evidence-based practices happening in the classrooms. The fourth is that we develop some common school to home and back communication practices. If you remember, that was in that operational plan as well. So we'll have a work team working through that. And then the fifth one is working through some common, consistent, district-wide discipline procedures. So it's consistent across our schools. We'll have teams made up of teachers and leaders working in those work groups, coming up with plans so that there's shared ownership of that work, and then there'll be training involved in moving that forward. So a lot of work going into that. Pretty excited about it. The last thing, I have two certificates on my desk that I forgot about to bring down here. The first one, Mark Schroeder was recognized with the MSBA Leadership Award for completing all the series of the MSBA training. So I want to recognize Mark for that. And then a certificate for David Marty. He's been recognized with the President's Award. That's given to board members who have 300 or more hours of training, which, all of that is significant. And obviously earlier we in January, there'll be a dinner recognizing people, but also Pat Maduri for being selected to the All-State School Board. So appreciate that work. It's not easy. This is extra for all of you in some way, shape, or form, and appreciate the investment you're making into this important work. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Upcoming school board committee and meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found on the district website and at the designated posting site at the ISD Creek Educational Services Center. Is there any other business to come before the board? Julie, do we have anybody signed up for public input? John Casper. Do I need to read the input statement, or can you remember what it was?
I remember what it was. I don't agree with any of it. It's totally against the first amendment of the Constitution. We can call out anybody we want. We can pretty much say whatever we want. It's not, for anybody, obviously.
You have 5 minutes.
That wouldn't be appropriate.
Go ahead.
First thing I want to say is Casey over here is an amazing employee. She does everything she can to help your constituents, particularly in the area of data requests. Casey truly cares about the district's financial well-being. She did not even receive a raise, I believe, at her request. There was a couple other employees the same way. Question, how many of the current board members have gone down to the state of Minnesota and met with Governor Waltz, members of the House or Senate, went to committee hearings to give public comments about the mandates that you all often talk about? And yes, I understand there are mandates. It takes a lot of work. Part of that is trying to change things at the state level. Another thing is Mr. Gross talks about non-taxable land. Like I said earlier, the school district has nearly 400 acres. The county has, I believe, over 365,000 acres of non-taxable. Have the school officials or school board members gone to the county and asked them to sell the non-taxable land, put it back on the tax rolls to gain revenue for the school district? It's been a big issue. 3 new board members ran on it and talked about it, but all we ever hear is talk about it. And again, it takes work, communicating with our senators, governors, commissioners, whatever. As far as Pat talking about communication, Pat, you're the only one that, besides Matt and Kara, one time I talked to her recently, that do communicate. You're available anytime. I call you, you answer the phone. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Sometimes you like what I say, sometimes you don't. But like you said, that's our right. And the First Amendment said you have the right to air grievances against the government. So I do appreciate that. But at the same time, I have reached out to Mr. Marty, Mark, Ben, and Mindy in many emails. Never once have I gotten a response back. In the last 2 years anyway. Several years ago we have, and I have copies of all them. So I don't think the communications is as good as, you know, what you're talking about, at least as far as the other board members go and some of the other individuals. Like I said, Mr. Gross is fantastic. And I think he'll say this, and I'll say it to you, all of the conversations we had, we probably had an hour one the other day, very respectful back and forth. Many topics were discussed. Mr. Gross, the same thing. I think he'll acknowledge that we've never had nothing but respectful conversations, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't, and that is very important. We don't have to like what the other person's saying, but it's important that they listen and we listen in the communications. That's one of the main reasons the bond referendum failed, and I think that you probably all would agree to that. One last thing about communications, and this is no reflection on Casey, because like I said, she does an amazing job and she's probably overworked. I have several data requests that haven't been filled. One's gone on for quite a long time, and one in particular was about the total cost of this referendum. I'd like to find out when that's going to be filled. Data requests aren't a request, they're the law, statute 13. Data requests that aren't filled are even punishable up to including a misdemeanor. Now I'll say this, you guys have been fantastic about it. I know you've been crazy busy, so I more say that because the county is terrible. If there's a comparison, they're derelict in their duties. Joe Dasovich is a wonderful person. He took over for Sheriff Vic, and Vic violated the law every day almost in data requests. So I appreciate that you do give them out to us, but I would like to see the current ones that aren't filled. Thank you. One other thing, as long as I got time, you mentioned misinformation or something, and specifically, I think you were talking about the 13.5%. That was something that, and it was in the papers and communicated to us, that potentially, I think the law says that you can raise 13.5%, but typically you haven't done that. There was concern that maybe you guys would do that this time around because the referendum failed. I thank you for not doing that. I do think we can do better, and same with the county. They promised they would raise taxes if the sales tax was put on. It was a lie. They raised the levy to 2.5%. So particularly with all the stimulus money that they received and stuff. They did get to a neutral budget a couple times. I commend them for that, but the stimulus money is still coming into 2024. And there's a $150 million budget on their end because it reflects to you. It's taxes both sides. There's enough waste, fraud, and abuse in that budget that they could do a lot better. I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but I think there's areas that need to be looked at, particularly salaries. And I'm not talking about the teachers, I'm talking about administrators. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.